The plus side of Robusta, at least in Brazil, we could have like huge yields,
right?
Like incredible, like more than 200 bags of 6 kilo per hectare of Robusta in Brazil. We have a variation of Canephora that's called Conilon, which is not as much used worldwide for Canephoras. They usually grow Robusta. But our technology, well, our Conilon varieties have like huge yields, but they need a lot of water, a lot of nutrients, a lot of management. It's not about put on the ground and wait it, and we have 200 bags. No, they need a lot of resources to do that. So they have the advantage that if we give more resources, they could give you more coffee.
If you're starting or growing your business in these volatile times in coffee and you need a little extra support, our scope of business advisory services may be just what you need. Send us an email to discuss our one-on-one consulting and business advisory services, where we'll work with you one-on-one to solve specific problems in your coffee business. All our services come with a 100% money-back guarantee. So send us an email at support@mapperforward.org and let us know how we can help you today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of a really fantastic 5-part series, a series that we do annually. This is our 8th year doing this podcast, and Jonas has been on pretty much every year since we started. And we're in a rhythm now where we do have guests that come back and help us understand what's happening. And it's always a pleasure to have Jonas on. Jonas is a coffee agronomist. We are talking about what's going on with the harvest in Brazil. And it seems really important to make sure that we have these kinds of conversations every year, Jonas, so that we can kind of document the history of what's going on in real time. And it seems to be that when we started talking about this stuff, in 2018, I think it was, climate was just starting to be a part of the conversation. It wasn't, even though it was very much a part of the conversation, I was quite the dum-dum when it came to understanding the connection between these things. I mean, it's only because of people like you that have come on the podcast and helped me understand the relationship with these things. And I always learn so much from you when you're on the podcast. So I'm very grateful to that. But one of my great loves is genetics. That's what I did my degree in. And something that's fascinated me is the role of plant genetics in trying to adapt to the change in weather, so that we can continue our industry, because Brazil is the number 1 producing country in the world. If it is in a pattern now of seeing year on year reductions in the yield for every harvest, this could present a significant problem, because it's not just happening in Brazil. Vietnam had a horrible year last year because of droughts. And we are starting to see these weather patterns happen in Colombia, Indonesia, all over the world, India, etc., etc. And one of the things that people are looking to is varieties, different plant varieties that are adaptable, whether they're heirloom varieties or they're brand new hybrids that people are coming up with. What can you tell us about what's going on with regards to that?
In Brazil, we are lucky to have institutes that do a lot of research in varieties for like more than 100 years. One, in my opinion, is the most important one. It's the Agronomic Institute of Campinas, the IAC, which do a lot of research. They are responsible for the breeding of important varieties, not only in Brazil, but worldwide, like Caturra, that we have in Colombia. In Colombia, they do their own breeding using the Caturra. It's not the same Caturra that we had in Brazil, but they use the basis for that. We have some important varieties like Yellow Bourbon, was developed there to high quality beverage. And more, I think today we have more than 100 varieties of Arabica, which most of them was developed in Agronomic Institute of Campinas. But we have another important institutes in Brazil, like IAPAR, which is from the state of Paraná, EPAMIG, that is from the state of Minas Gerais, which is very important for growing coffee, and Pro Café, which developed a lot of new varieties in the state of Minas Gerais too. All of them are keep and maintain for public and government money, which is important because as you probably heard about, coffee is not a good variety, it's not a good crop to be explored by private sector, because you buy a seed and use it for 20 years. The same seed is different for
Soy,
corn beans or
corn,
soy.
yeah.
That every season you need to buy more seeds from the same company in order to have this hybrid and everything. Coffee is like that. It's very complicated. And I understand it's not about the money, but about how private company with your money with something that you just sell it for 20 years in once for a farmer. That is important to have public institution or or sometimes like World Coffee Research that do some work on that too. Is the only way that we could save coffee and have new varieties, new breedings that are very well researched here in Brazil. I have a good friendship with the researchers, the professors from the Agronomic Institute. So I know a lot of their research, and they always sharing stuff with me. I went to the research fields and I saw a lot of efforts that they put on the coffee breeding to have like drought resistant coffee, disease resistant coffee, coffee with better yields, coffee that could survive with less nutrients in the soil. So all this breeding are important to have a future for the coffee, because the old varieties are showing they're not well adapted to this new climate condition as they used to be. So introduce new varieties in the field. It's important, and it's just a small part of all of that. If you talk, I think about 5 years ago, I saw an interview from Christopher Montagnon, which is a very important guy from the breeding sector. And they said it's hard to put a new variety for the farmers that they could rely on and grow this variety. It's not just about making the better variety, it's about to convince farmers this is the better variety. It's the same in Brazil, by the way, but it's interesting to see it's not an issue just in Brazil, but worldwide. Make farmers trust in this technology, this new technology that could bring more resilience to their growing. Before I saw issue, by the way, brings more story for that, in Colombia, when they have a problem to introduce the Castillo variety in the country, where they have the Caturra variety, which is not coffee leaf rust resistant. One reason is because cuppers and people from the specialty coffee are not well sure if Castillo will drink good
Too
as
much water.
Caturra.
All right.
Yeah. So farmers are thinking about, if I start to grow Castillo with coffee leaf resistant and the cup quality is not good, about like say 20 to 15 years ago too. Now I know there are many people starting to grow like coffee resistant varieties in Colombia too. But before, this is a huge issue Wheat, I think today is not a huge issue because we're talking to survive in coffee, and specialty is something that we have to think about. Will be possible, but first we need coffee to make specialty coffee.
We need the coffee to figure out if we're going to take it to the next level. Well, and this post-harvest processing is what people are using to try and take a coffee that, even though it's specialty, they'll make it extra. They'll make up the gap through the post-harvest processing to, whether it's infused or different types of fermentation, that's where they're adding a bit of extra quality. I wanted to ask you, we have Arabica varieties and we have Canephora varieties or Robusta varieties. And there's been a big push from about 2024 or 2023, actually. There was this big push that everyone was like, Robusta's going to save everything. But from what I understand, Robusta requires more water than Arabica. So if the reason that we're looking for these new varieties is so that they can be resilient to drought and they can be resilient to other weather patterns, frost, etc., doesn't that create a problem if we're promoting Robusta, but it needs more water? Am I understanding that wrong?
Yeah, the plus side of Robusta, at least in Brazil, we could have like huge yields,
right?
Like incredible, like more than 200 bags of 6 kilo per hectare of Robusta in Brazil. We have a variation of Canephora that's called Conilon, which is not as much used worldwide for Canephoras. They usually grow Robusta. But our technology, well, our Conilon varieties have like huge yields, but they need a lot of water, a lot of nutrients, a lot of management. It's not about put on the ground and wait it, and we have 200 bags. No, they need a lot of resources to do that. So they have the advantage that if we give more resources, they could give you more coffee. In Arabica, even with the technology that we have now in breeding, like in Brazil, we have varieties of Arabica that could harvest more than 100 bags of hectare. And it's incredible, by the way, for Arabicas to do that. But they need more resources to do. Of course, if you want more yields, you need more fertilizer, more attention, sometimes more pesticides. You have to take care of the plant very well. What we discover in Brazil, it's we could have some interesting results using the roots of Canephora and the top of Arabica. The technique is called grafting. We use that for many crops worldwide, like grapes, apples, a lot of crops. But in coffee, there's not so much studies. There are kind of studies, but not in fields, like farmers doing that.
Right.
And we learned that the strong roots of Robusta, is Robusta, by the way. Yeah. The Robusta strong roots with the Arabica on top explore more the ground and could resist better to some conditions of climate. It's still in the beginning in terms of climate, because we do that in Brazil for another reason. It's to avoid a plague that we have in the ground that's called nematodes.
Nematodes,
is kind of worm that suck the nutrients from the roots. So the Arabicas, they are very susceptible for this worm, but the Robustas many of their
Natural
variation
resistance.
you have natural resistance.
Mm.
So we could go grow Arabicas in these infested areas with this worm using grafting, but we saw that they are showing some interesting results in terms of resilience in climate, not just water, but
Awesome.
exploring the soil with, if the roots are bigger, they could grow in rich more nutrients, rich more stuff that Arabicas could not because of the size of the roots. So maybe we saw something like that in the future, maybe some kind of grafting to help the roots of Arabicas, or a kind of variation in roots to help to explore the ground. We have in Brazil varieties that are very resistant to drought. I already work with some of them, but it's like, let me say, maybe 5 or 8 variations, and in a universe of 100, almost 100 variations of Arabica varieties. It's a very narrow and is not as resistant as we want for the future. We need something more, how can I say, have a strong and resilient, resistant for harsh conditions. I think breeding, it's for a researcher, breeding is not an exercise for the present, but for the future.
Right.
They need to think what the problems the farmers will have in 10 years. Because I need to start now and have something in 10, 20 years. So the issues now is not the same that we have in 10, 20 years. So I think before they not thought in that way, but all the researchers that I talked today, they think in that way when they do breeding. So they have to think about the future to make a new breeding, a new variety in order to do 10 years of studies.
So if I understand it correctly, we've got a whole bunch of different varieties that we're trying out to see how adaptive they are. And in some of them, instead of just using a Robusta or an Arabica, we're trialing the grafting of Arabica onto Robusta. But that's challenging, I guess, because as you were saying, you know, if you have nutrients in the soil and you have access to water, these plants, particularly the Conifer or the Robusta, is hugely high yield. And Arabica, if it has everything that it needs, can also be high yield, but not as high as Robusta, right? Our problem is that we don't have those things. Brazil doesn't have endless amounts of water to be able to support the Conifera boom. And right, like there's aquifers under Brazil that can be tapped into, but we have a problem because that's going to run out eventually. So even if we irrigate on farms, we're still not getting the water that's necessary. Since 2021, we have these kind of rolling droughts that keep happening that are a problem for the harvests, correct?
Yeah.
So that it's not just, again, this is a question. So varieties alone are not going to solve this problem because the weather's not getting any better. Varieties need to be in the right ecosystem to create a resilient farming future, correct? And how important are they in this story? If we're going to create resilient farms, if we're looking at regenerative or agroforestry, yes, we have to look at the soil. Yes, we have to look at the shade trees. Yes, we have to look at all of that stuff. But how big a role is having the right variety going to play in creating resilient coffee farms?
In my opinion, it's played a main role for that.
The main role.
It's important. Yeah,
Okay.
because the breeding in these research facilities, they are focused on doing their better from the farmer. One reason is because they are no profit organization
Yeah,
too,
the
because they work
universities
for,
and right
yeah,
research
they work
centers.
for the future of something. It's not about making the most profitable product for the
Yeah,
research center. They need to be do the better for them. So they put a
right.
lot of efforts in what I saw there, to put the better breeding and how can I say, adapted variety from the future, even for irrigation. Like you said, irrigation will play an important role in the future of cropping. There's no way out for that, but we have to understand what is the proper irrigation to do it in order to respect the water that will be available for people, for animals, for another stuff. Because I like to bring that always when I talk with about irrigation. Irrigation, if they done in the right way, is not about spend water, but about to use water in the better
Smart.
way. Yeah, because when I do irrigation, for instance, let me say I have a reservoir, like a
Reservoir.
lake.
Yep.
Yeah. And I take the water that will come and put in this reservoir in order to store it, instead of just putting all the water at once in the ground. So I store it for a period of time, pump this water from the ground in the same way that will happen like 2 months ago with the rain. But I do it in splitted ways.
Stages.
Yeah, because the plant, if I have like 100 millimeters of water, the plant will not use this amount of water at once because they can't, and the soil cannot store this amount of water too at once. So usually the water goes down and go in the, I don't know the word in English, like the reservoir from the
Aquifer.
yeah, from yeah, exactly. So if we do proper irrigation, I will do the same, but split it in parts. So I put some water now, and I have like 100 millimeters rain in the first day of March, and the other days I have no rain. So I take this water, put on the ground, but along the
You
30
mimic the
days of
weather.
the month.
Right.
Yeah, it's a way to do irrigation without no much impact, because I do not will burn the water. I will put on the ground. They will go, if the water do not go down in the word that you said, and I've already forget. Aquifer. Part of the water will get back to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
In
Transpiration.
form of transpiration, because the
Evapotranspiration.
plant, if I'm not mistaken, coffee needs just about 2% of water that was stored in the plant. Most of the water is used to pump the nutrients.
Right.
But to pump the nutrients, the water needs to perspirate in the leaves. Exactly. So that is why irrigation is not an issue. It's well used. But if the farmers start to say, maybe I should store water for 4 months instead of 1 month, so they take this water and keep it for a long time, for instance, or a lot of farmers start to pump water from a river that will flow to a city that they will need the water to drink. So the volume of the water that will come to that city will be an issue. So we have to think a lot when we do irrigation projects, how they will impact the population that live nearby, or the environmental that they need that river, like animals or swamps, for instance, that have biosystems there.
Mangroves.
Things like that. It's always, I said, technology it was not developed to harm environmental, but the way that they use sometimes harm them because they're not properly used. That's why we need regulation, government that say you could do that, you cannot do that, studies to understand how irrigation or any kind of technology will impact environmental. And sometimes we lack of that because the technology just appear and everyone want to use it with sometimes no responsible or no rules enough to make that balance. And then the technology turned to be a villain in the world because they was not properly used, and the intention that many times the researcher in the research facility did when they developed that technology to help humankind instead of making money just because of making money, So it's important to, for me at least, always when I talk about irrigation, to bring that points to people understand it's not just about that, but we have to be very careful when we use it, like a medicine, for instance, that we take it. It's important to understand everything in order to use it and see if in your situation you need irrigation or not. And we have resources enough to do irrigation or not, or in many areas it's sad, in my opinion, but will be areas that we will not grow anything anymore. It's too expensive, use too much resources, so maybe we have to move to another areas that we could grow in a better way and impact less the environmental. It's not an easy step for sure, but it's happens. We have to make it some changes that will be not easier to do.
If you ever want to go down a dark rabbit hole, Jonas, about water and technology, take a look at the impact that data centers for AI are having on the, it's dark, right? For anyone listening, go and look up the data centers, how much drinking water. They can't use normal water. They have to use drinking water to cool their data centers. And this is becoming a massive problem all over the world as AI starts to proliferate. And it's going to have an impact on agriculture. Anyway, one episode to go. And in the last episode, we're going to talk more about the 2026 harvest and beyond. So what does everything that we've been talking about mean for coffee production in Brazil moving forward long term? So join us for the final episode of this awesome series with Jonas. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.